Joe, good morning. Good to have you with us on this Monday. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to get started with the investigation into that nightmare scenario in the sky.
This morning, the NTSB is analyzing a door plug that detached from an Alaska Airlines plane on Friday mid-flight. Officials say it was actually found in a backyard in Portland, Oregon, and it could be key in helping investigators determine what caused the Boeing 737's cabin wall panel to blow open. No one was seriously hurt, but the near disaster is now sending shockwaves through the aviation industry worldwide. The FAA chief announced that nearly 200 other similar planes in the U.S. will remain grounded as they search for answers. And as NBC News aviation correspondent Tom Costello explains, agencies across the world are doing the same.
New images show the focus of the NTSB's investigation. The gaping hole where a sealed and plugged door hole blew out in a violent explosion as the brand new Alaska Airlines plane was flying at 16,000 feet on its way from Portland to Ontario, California. The pilots wearing oxygen masks forced to make an emergency landing back in Portland.
Alaska 1282, we just did pressure. We're declaring emergency. We need to descend down to 10,000.
There was a big boom or a mini explosion in the rear of the plane.
Passengers described a terrifying flight.
Moisture and fluid, almost like a cloud, rushing from the front of the plane to the back of the plane. Blew my hat back. Folks in front of me, their hair was blown back.
Evan Granger sitting several rows in front of the hole.
I didn't want to look back to see what was happening. I knew something happened, and my focus in that moment was just breathe into the oxygen mask and trust that the flight crew will do everything they can to keep us safe.
Thankfully, no one was sitting in seats 26A or B next to the hole. But the NTSB chief says nearby seats are twisted and bent. The empty seat's headrest and seat cushions missing, sucked out of the plane. A teenage boy sitting one row forward had his shirt ripped off. It happened behind the plane's left wing. An emergency exit door hole cut in case airlines want to carry more passengers. Otherwise, that door is plugged and sealed, leaving an ordinary window. Investigators will be looking at whether that plug was properly bolted in place during manufacturing. Inside the plane, the wind violently pulled the cockpit door free, slamming it against the lavatory. Damage throughout the plane. Had the explosion occurred at cruising altitude, it could have been catastrophic.
Something like that at 34,000, 35,000 feet, it's not just cold weather you're looking at a lack of oxygen and pretty significant consequences very early from that lack of oxygen and folks in the cabin.
With the FAA grounding the MAX 9, airlines around the world have been forced to cancel hundreds of flights. In the U.S., Alaska canceling 170, United 180, saying it's waiting for the FAA to provide directions.
Well, our thanks to Tom Costello for that report. Well, the NTSB says the plane's black boxes have now arrived in Washington, D.C. for further analysis, and investigators have interviewed the crew.
For more, we're joined now by former FAA and NTSB investigator Jeff Gazzetti, who's also an NBC aviation analyst. Jeff, good to have you with us right now. So talk us through the process of this investigation. What are investigators looking for, and how important was finding this door plug?
Well, it was very important that they found that door plug, and that's a late-breaking news item, because now they'll be able to marry up the door plug that they found on the ground with the remnants of the hole that were in the side of the fuselage, and they'll be able to marry up paint transfer marks, damage to the attached fittings, those types of things. Meanwhile, they're going to be continuing to interview flight attendants, passengers. They're going to collect information from the flight data recorder. The cockpit voice recorder, unfortunately, though, was overwritten, so that the voice recording didn't capture the flight. But they're going to be doing a lot of work now, metallurgy work, with the actual broken pieces.
Yeah, that recording piece of this is so unfortunate. Apparently every 2 hours, right, it kind of starts to reset itself, and it hadn't been shut off, so it just gets recorded over, something that they're now looking at changing. Jeff, have you ever seen anything that really compares to this before? Are there similar incidents that investigators could look to help guide them either in terms of the damage or the particular aircraft?
There have been, Savannah. There probably within the last 10, 15 years, I can recall of 4 events involving a in-flight a rapid decompression. 2 of them involved 737s. They were both Southwest Airlines events, but it didn't involve a door plug like this. It involved the lap joints of structure on top of the aircraft. They let loose at 35,000 feet. No one was injured in either of those, and it turned out to be a manufacturing issue. Then there was, of course, the fatal accident involving that Southwest 737 that had a nacelle come off, hit the side of the fuselage, partially open up a window, and that mother that was half sucked out and killed because of it. That was because of a nacelle problem that bounced up against the side of the airplane. And then there was the United Airlines cargo flight door that had electrical connectors and things like that. None translate directly to this, but still the effects inside the cockpit and the cabin were the same.
You've been in the air safety industry for decades. As this investigation moves forward, we know it's going to take several months. What is it you're going to be watching out for?
I'm going to be watching out for what airlines report back to the FAA with regards to this emergency airworthiness directive. So basically, it's a directive that says you can't fly your airplane until you inspect this door seal area. And hopefully, no one will come back to say, oh, yeah, we have this problem, too. So that's what I'm waiting to hear is how widespread this problem is or whether or not it was a one-off. And then secondly, later on, the NTSB is going to get to the root cause of exactly why this door plug came off. Was it a manufacturing issue? Was it a design issue? Was it a maintenance issue? So that's what I'm looking to hear from. But it's going to take several months for the NTSB to get to the bottom of that.
All right, Jeff Gazzetti, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time.
Now let's get to some news out of the Pentagon. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has been in the hospital since New Year's Day, but the Pentagon did not inform the White House National Security Council until Thursday. That's 3 days after he arrived at Walter Reed Medical Center in Maryland.
In a statement, the Pentagon said that the defense secretary was hospitalized Monday because of complications from a recent medical procedure.
For more on this, we are joined by NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba and Pentagon correspondent Courtney Cubey. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for joining us, Courtney. I will begin with you. So we know the Pentagon waited days, as we just said before, informing officials about this hospitalization. Are there any new details first about his condition and then why he was admitted?
As far as his condition, all we know is that he's still hospitalized as of this morning. So it's been about a week since he first arrived at Walter Reed Medical Center last Monday, New Year's Day. But we don't know much beyond that other than the fact that he has resumed his duties as Secretary of Defense. He resumed them Friday night, according to the press secretary from the Pentagon. Now, we've learned some, frankly, head-scratching new details about this over the weekend. About 5 p.m. Friday night, we got a very simple statement out of the Pentagon saying that he had been hospitalized all week. For the record, Savannah, we were told that he had been on leave all week. The Pentagon press corps was. In fact, he had been hospitalized. And as we dug into this, we found he had been in the intensive care unit, ICU, for most of the week. That, in fact, the White House was not notified of this until Thursday. So, as you said, 3 days after he was hospitalized. And in fact, Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks, who was told on Tuesday to assume some of the duties of the Secretary of Defense, she wasn't even notified why she was assuming those duties until Thursday, that he was hospitalized. And just to give a sense of the urgency of the situation, as soon as she found out he was hospitalized, she started making plans to return from vacation. She was in Puerto Rico at the time, all last week, but was told, well, he's getting better. He's going to retake his duties probably in the next hours or so. So she didn't leave her vacation. But that just shows the urgency of this situation. Now, Secretary of Defense Austin did release a statement over the weekend taking responsibility for not disclosing this information publicly or to the media. He wrote in this statement that I could have done a better job ensuring the public was appropriately informed. I commit to doing better, but it's important to say this was my medical procedure. I take full responsibility for my decisions about disclosure. What's important to point out there, Savannah, he is specifically saying he takes responsibility for not informing the public. We still don't really have a good reason for why the administration, the Pentagon, did not notify the White House for 3 days.
So, yeah, let's bring in Monica now. Following the release of the defense secretary's statement, President Biden did speak with him on the phone. What do we know about that conversation? What are we hearing from the White House?
Well, we understand that the conversation between the president and Secretary Austin was, quote, warm. We know that at this point, President Biden, according to officials, has full confidence, he says, in his defense secretary. But as Courtney just laid out there are still so many puzzling questions here as to why this happened the way that it happened. But we do know that at this point, the White House is saying essentially they were left in the dark, that it wasn't until Thursday that National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan then informed the president, because that is when he got word himself that this was the situation, and he passed that along. So we will be sure to press today for a lot more answers on this. This is something that really isn't typical. When you see this kind of level of hospitalization, the ICU, those kinds of details, especially at somebody at that level, when there is so much happening around the world, this is something that certainly the White House and the Pentagon are going to have to continue to provide some answers for in terms of accountability and transparency. Joe and Savannah.
Monica, is there any anticipation that there'll be any consequences for this being kept a secret?
We haven't gotten any indication of that, but I think as we are going to learn more and uncover more here, there's the potential here for that, and certainly for someone to probably concede here that mistakes were made and that this could have been improved. But Secretary Blinken, who's been traveling in the Middle East for the last couple of days, was asked about this specifically in terms of what his consideration was and whether he would do the same if it was his position. He said he didn't want to get into hypotheticals, but that his full support was behind Secretary Austin as well. Take a listen to how he answered.
It's been a highlight of my service to be able to serve alongside him, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing him fully recovered and working side by side in the year ahead.
What is your policy?
Again, I think he put out a statement addressing this. I'll let that statement speak for itself.
And that was Secretary Blinken answering questions from our own Andrea Mitchell, who is traveling with him abroad. And again, I think the White House will be pressed for a lot more, as well as the Pentagon, by Courtney, I'm sure. Today.
Yeah, and Courtney, I mean, where Secretary Blinken is a reminder, there's a lot happening in the Middle East right now. The U.S. is considering strikes against Houthi militants in response to their attacks on ships in the Red Sea. So real quickly, how does Austin's health impact any decisions about what's happening overseas?
So the reality is there's redundancy built in here, right? So as far as specifically the issue with the Houthis, the options for any potential strike or targeting of the Houthis, those have been out there. That's a matter of that President Biden would have to approve that and order those sorts of strikes. So, but if Secretary Austin, as I said, he's still in the hospital today, it's more difficult for him to be a part of those conversations. He can go via video teleconference, he can speak to them, but the reality is they can still conduct the business of the U.S. military without Secretary Austin being directly involved. As I said, there's redundancy. But why this is so critical, Joe, is because he is part of the nuclear chain of command. Now, what that means is by law, he has to, the National Military Command Center, the NSC, the heads of the national security apparatus for this country have to be aware of his whereabouts and be able to get him at a moment's notice in case we're in a situation where, heaven forbid, there's a nuclear attack against the United States and there needs to be an immediate response by the chain of command here. He is part of that. That's why this is raising so many alarm bells that, in fact, the White House, the senior levels of this administration, simply didn't know where he was for 3 days.
All right, Courtney and Monica, thank you both very much.
We are tracking the next major cross-country storm system.
That's right. After a weekend of extreme weather, more alerts for flooding rains, damaging winds, heavy snow. Those are all in place for millions. Well, for more on how it could affect you and your area, let's get a check at your Morning News Now weather with meteorologist Michelle Grossman. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Great to see you. And this is a big one. We are looking at major impacts for most of us over the next 3 days. And that's one of two storms that we're going to see this week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for the first storm, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for the second storm. We're already starting to see this storm bring some thunderstorms to portions of the southern plains. We're concerned about nighttime tornadoes in the Gulf Coast states. So if you're in places like Houston, New Orleans, Mobile, you need to have your tornado plan in place because we are looking at volatile conditions later on tonight. We're looking at the chance for really heavy rain in spots, flooding rains, and looking at the chance for blizzard-like conditions in the plains. So we kind of have it all. Many of us looking at the chance for damaging winds as well as we go throughout today. Now, as we go through the rest of the week, we're looking at that second storm system. So I think that we might be on Weather 8, just making sure that we are on Weather 8 because that's what I'm using over here. But you could see that blue on the map. That's where we're seeing that heavy snow falling. We're also looking at the rain falling where you're seeing those thunderstorms. Storm alerts. We're looking at so many, millions of us under storm alerts, 108 million under wind alerts, 42 million under winter alerts, and 58 million under flood alerts. We're thinking about flooding, river flooding, and also the chance of flash flooding, especially in portions of the Northeast. We're already so saturated from storms that we've had, the weekend storms, and then storms that we're going to have Tuesday into Wednesday. We're also looking at that other storm bringing more storms later on this week. So flash flood outlook today, we're looking at chances in the south central states, the Gulf Coast states, portions of the southeast by tomorrow, and then into Tuesday, Wednesday, we're looking at the mid-Atlantic into the Northeast. So this is what this storm looks like. It's a big one. It's going to bring major impacts. So blizzard-like conditions across the plains today. Look at all those bright colors in the south central states, the Tennessee Valley, the lower Mississippi Valley. That's the anticipation of really heavy rain and also the anticipation of severe weather along the Gulf Coast states. So keep that in mind. And then, guys, by tomorrow, we're looking at the heaviest snow into the Great Lakes and really heavy rain into the mid-Atlantic and also in the Northeast. So I can't emphasize this enough. We have some really heavy verbiage coming out of Mobile, the National Weather Service, where we're looking at the chance for really strong storms later on tonight. Back to you.
Thank you, Michelle. Everybody stay safe. We'll see you soon. Turning now to winter illnesses. Doctors are warning both COVID cases and flu cases are on the rise in the U.S., and they don't really think there's a peak in sight anytime soon.
The CDC says flu levels are high or very high in at least 38 states, and COVID hospitalization rates are up 20% as of Friday.
NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal joins us now for more on this. Hi, doctor. Always great to have you with us. So tell us, walk us through, are cases looking different than in years prior? How concerning is that?
So, guys, we talked to 4 different doctors in different corners of the country, and they're telling us this season, this respiratory season, is actually a bit unusual. So what we saw last year, we talked a lot about this triple-demic, right? Each virus, the flu, COVID, and RSV. But what we saw last year was that, RSV and flu were high initially. But by the time COVID came, the other 2 went away. So COVID was kind of here on its own, but what we're seeing this year, guys, is both COVID and flu are sort of neck and neck. They're both kind of hovering at this moderately to very high level right now, and that's actually worrying doctors. What does that mean? Could we see people get sick at the same time with both? Could we see back-to-back infections? We've talked a lot about this lingering cough people seem to have. So definitely an unusual respiratory season this year, guys.
Are we at risk of being sicker if we get them around the same time? What are some of the ramifications?
So, yeah, we wanted to ask, can you get both flu and COVID or even RSV? Can you get co-infected? Can you get all of these at the same time? The CDC is actually tracking this, guys, and it's about 3% of people, so not a very large risk. But 3% of people will test positive for both of these things at the same time. And you can see here on the screen, there's a lot of symptom overlap between the two. Aches and difficulty breathing, fatigue, fever. Really the only way to tell the difference, guys, is to take a test. But to answer your question, Joe, if you do get sick with both, if you are one of those 3%, there is a likelihood you will get more sick. You will be more likely to end up with worse outcomes as you would expect if you get 2 viruses.
Quickly, before we let you go, is it too late? Should we be getting a flu shot, updated vaccine? Give us the guidance there.
Absolutely not too late. And I think we have a map of the flu states here where you can see some are very high, some are not that high yet. And you don't want to wait. See, guys, on the screen here, purple is bad. You do not want to wait for your state to get to the purple. The flu shot takes 1 to 2 weeks to work. Absolutely not too late to get it. No matter where you are on that map, you should go out and get it if you haven't.
And I've heard from far too many people recently who are not feeling well, they test negative for COVID, and then they go to work or they go hang out with friends, and it's
That's a really good point.
It's happening a lot. Don't do that, right?
Just stay home.
I think we got so used to just being like, is it COVID or is it not? And then I'm off the hook. Yeah. All right. Dr. Syal, always great to see you. Thank you.
Anytime.
All right, we've got 1 week to go now until the Iowa caucuses, and Republican presidential contenders are making one last push to win votes throughout the Hawkeye State.
With former President Trump the overwhelming favorite among likely Republican voters in Iowa, his GOP rivals are hoping for an early upset. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, as well as former Ambassador Nikki Haley, continue to fight for second place.
For the latest, we're joined now by NBC News political correspondent Ali Vitale in Sioux City, Iowa. We're also joined by NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen. Good to have both of you with us. So, Ali, let's start with you. Just what's the feeling on the ground in Iowa, a position they know well in Iowa as we head into this home stretch?
Well, the feeling, other than cold, obviously, guys, is that this is the home stretch of the race. But what's so striking for those of us like John and I who have covered so many of these caucuses before is typically it feels like there's almost an anyone can take it vibe on the ground. Instead, what we're seeing here is even people who say they don't support Trump are under the assumption that he is going to be the winner here, and likely not just the winner, but someone who's able to trounce his rivals in the process. Nevertheless, those rivals are trying to make as many gains as they possibly can. For someone like Ron DeSantis, a second-place finish is really the best that he could hope for, but certainly that falls short of the metric he himself had laid at the very beginning of this process, saying that Iowa was going to be the starting bell for him and, frankly, the new wave of republicanism that he wanted to usher into this party. The other person who's hoping for a strong second-place finish for different reasons is former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. She's not expected to win here. She's spent less time on the ground here physically holding events than many of her counterparts. But that national momentum that we've seen her riding in places like New Hampshire, she's hoping that Iowa can provide a sort of second place springboard into the Granite State, where she is believed by many to be at least carrying some momentum. Whether or not that brings her within striking distance of Trump remains to be seen. But certainly it's all about making momentum start and then, of course, carrying it through to the rest of these early states out of Iowa, guys. John, let's bring you in here. And Allie, by the way, before I talk to John, thank you very much for standing out in the snow for us. John, Trump may have
got it, girl.
This big lead in Iowa, but there are these legal issues, of course, that we've been talking about alongside that. With such a big lead in the polls, is the former president viewing this as just a formality? What's he saying heading into this final week before the caucuses, especially since we haven't seen all that much from him actually in Iowa?
Yeah, well, he was in Iowa just this weekend. He gave a couple of speeches at Commit to Caucus rallies. Basically, we were trying to get people to sign up in ink, if not in blood, to show up for you. Look, his argument to the public is that Democrats are going after him because they are afraid of him. His argument is that he will be able to come in for a second term and implement the parts of his agenda that he didn't before. He's got a whole new plan for a second term. So, he has not been in Iowa as much as some of the other candidates, but he is certainly making his presence felt here in the stretch run. I would categorize it under the category of not taking anything for granted, as Allie reported from Iowa in that beautiful winter wonderland there. Mm-hmm. Basically, the Iowa electorate is not going to pick somebody else. You'd have to have some sort of earthquake between now and the caucuses for that to happen. But Trump is not going to be seen as taking it for granted.
Yeah, John, I mean, the other Republicans have been reluctant to attack Trump or go after him in any way. Are they doing anything different to try and close the gap here?
Yeah, there's a reason that they're not going after him, and it speaks to the trouble that they've had moving forward, which is that the vast majority of Republicans still like Donald Trump. Even a lot of the ones who don't plan to vote for him like Donald Trump. They approve of Donald Trump. And so what these candidates have had difficulty doing, and really it's been impossible so far, is to make the case to Republican voters that they should move away from Donald Trump, which is the first part of a two-part strategy for winning this race. Get them to get off of Donald Trump and then get them to like you. But what they all skipped that first part. I think partially because they understood that it would backfire to start attacking Trump. We're starting to see a little bit more of that right in this stretch run before Iowa, but arguably too little too late.
Before we let y'all go, Allie, I want to go back to something that you mentioned a moment ago about Nikki Haley. So she has been on the rise, but she made those waves when she made that comment that New Hampshire corrects what Iowa chooses. You mentioned that there is support, it seems, for her in the Granite State, maybe more so than in Iowa as we look ahead to the week after the caucus. But walk us through that signaling, sort of. Is that low expectations for her in Iowa? And is there anything that could look like a win of any sort for her here?
Haley's own top surrogate, the New Hampshire governor, Chris Sununu, has actually been on the road in Iowa with her, but has said a few times now that in Iowa, it's generally expected that Trump is going to win here. So even her own top surrogates who want her to be the victor are saying that here in Iowa, it's not going to happen. Yes, we're all playing an expectation setting game when we talk to our sources and they try to tell us where they think they're going to finish. But you also just have to listen to the candidates on the stump. They think that they might have some momentum. But again, this entire race has really been based around the idea that the guy out in front is so far out there that he doesn't even feel like he has to spend a ton of time on the ground, and everyone else is scrambling for second. That's nibbling around the edges. That's not getting the cookie, to carry the metaphor.
All right. Allie and John, thank you both. We'll talk to you often over the next week and really over the next 10 months.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.